Well, hello, Liberty listeners. Welcome to another episode of Liberty Road. Today, you guys are in for a treat. You get to hear from Wanda Wen. Not only has Wanda become a friend over the years, but she's one of those women that has the ability to infuse in you a sense of both wonder and awe in the work that she's doing and whatever work you might be wanting to do. But she also has this very grounded sensibility. And I find that those two things don't always come together. So I'm excited for this conversation. Wanda, welcome. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Netta. And I am so grateful to just call you a friend, truly.
I feel
I've
the same.
admired you from afar.
Well, let's talk about that for a second, because I admired you first. And it's funny because we, for those listening, Wanda got to participate both as a vendor at our Liberty Road Summit, but she also got to be one of the experts and ran a workshop. And I can't tell you how many people, so we're all hovering around the same age. We're in our, late 40s, 50s, early 60s. And at the event, and how many people came up to me and said, I used to wander into Soolip, Wanda's store, which we're going to tell you more about in a second. When I was in my 20s, when I was getting married, I couldn't afford anything. And it was my dream to have everything stationery and paper from Soolip. I just kept hearing it over and over again. I mean, you have such a following, and people have been so loyal to you and to the brand. Let's back up a little bit and just talk about that. Let's talk about what Soolip is, and the founding of it. What sparked an interest in being the founder of a stationery store?
Yeah. Well, Soolip, first of all, probably the most often asked question is, what does Soolip mean? So I'm going to tell you that first.
Tell me.
And Soolip it's translated to one's life destiny is to seek wisdom. Yes, it's two Chinese characters, and it's pronounced Shila, but it's two Chinese characters, and it actually is also my middle name. So I grew up with that, but that's what it means. And in terms of how the business or why it came to be, Netta, I've always been so passionate about paper. It's just a thing that I've had. Paper, ephemera, photos, letters. I mean, even when I was in second grade, I remember it's Valentine's Day and we're making, construction paper envelopes to stick on the front of your desks so that we can exchange Valentine's cards. And I always loved that. And I always loved making my own with doilies or colored paper. And I always remember receiving my Valentines, and I would save them and cut out hearts or little bouquets of flowers that are on the cards. And I would use them as elevation into photo albums that I would keep for the family. So I've been doing this for a long time. And then I was such a big letter writer to my grandmother, to my aunt, really for a long time. And even when I was and then fast forward to when I was 18, 19 years old, I was going to USC. That's where I went to college. I remember sitting in my room, I was in a sorority, and I was sitting in my room on the floor with my girlfriend, Elizabeth Hubble, who's still one of my very dear friends, and a fellow paper file. And I was wrapping a gift for someone. And when you're in college, everything is on a budget. So I remember just taking a grocery bag and turning it inside, cutting it up, turning it inside out, using that to wrap the gift. And then I stepped outside, and there was this big bougainvillea plant on the side of our parking lot. And I just clipped a piece of it because it had beautiful fuchsia leaves.
Right.
And I brought that in. I tucked it underneath the sisal ribbon that I had. And I looked at it and I was so proud. And I remember really just holding up going, wouldn't that be amazing if someone paid me to do this one day?
Wow.
Like this is when I'm 20, right?
Wow.
And that friend, Elizabeth Hubble, I continue to write letters to her. And we have just hundreds of beautiful letters that are really like mail art that one day we want to make into a book because it's so inspiring.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
What a beautiful start to this story. And also I think, as I do these interviews or as we have
yeah,
conversations with women who are doing and have done really interesting things, I love the idea that you can go back and find something in your childhood that really gave you joy and was
yeah,
very natural to who you are. Like
yeah.
no one has to say, well, paper is my passion. It's just
Hmm.
this, like, it just came from you. It was what you wanted to do. It was what your hands wanted to do. It was the way you
Right.
wanted to move. And
Yeah,
for so many of us to think back to those moments, what is it that brought us that sense of joy? And,
yeah,
we don't all have the luxury of being able to turn that into a business for a variety of
yeah.
reasons. But we
Right.
do all have the ability to carve out time in a day or a week to do that as a practice, whatever that thing was. And I think
For
that's
sure.
a really good reminder. It's sort of like that's what you as a tree, that's what you need. That's the soil, that's the nutrients, that's the water
Yeah,
you need to keep growing, is that creative outlet, that thing.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
you take a beautiful mental photograph of this gift with the bougainvillea that you wrapped. And how does that then become yeah, somebody is going to pay me for doing this? Like, how does that translate into a business?
Well, after college, I've always been interested in aesthetic. I also loved fashion,
Yeah.
and my first job and my career right out of USC was in the fashion industry. So I worked in Los Angeles and in New York for Perry Ellis, which is a label that's been around for a long time, and it was when Perry was still alive. And I worked for Steven Sprouse. Some people know who he is, some people
Oh,
don't.
we
He's
know
like
who he is. We know who he
okay,
is. Yeah.
yeah.
We know the brand.
For those of you that don't know, he's a little bit more obscure, and actually both designers have passed, but Stephen was the antithesis of Perry Ellis. Perry Ellis was very sort of Connecticut, clean,
Mm-hmm.
all American fashion. Stephen Sprouse had to start designing for people like Deborah Harry and Mick Jagger,
Yeah.
and we worked in Andy Warhol's old factory, but it was great to have the two sort of infused in me, and it gave me a window of what style can be from soup to nuts.
Yeah.
And it my time in the fashion industry, I started out in sales and I went into marketing and then eventually got into merchandising. So I was always around aesthetic. I was always around presentation, and I traveled a lot and I got to see a lot. And I always had this undercurrent of, oh, I love paper. Wherever I would travel, especially internationally, the place that I would want to go and see is not the typical tourist attractions. I wanted to go to the post offices. So, in fact, I just came back from Ladakh, which is in northern India. It's in the Himalayas. I went for a yoga retreat, and we went to a lot of monasteries, which I love. But after 6 of them, it was like, ho hum, I've
Yeah.
seen enough.
Yeah.
I want to go to the post office. So I got to go to the post office, and I got a private tour of the back room, which was so much fun. It was my favorite. But anyways, so I lived in New York for a while, and then I moved back to Los Angeles, and I continued working in the fashion industry. And I remember, but I always had this love for paper, and I said, oh, I would love to have a paper store here. There's no one really doing great things with it. I eventually became an apprentice at a letterpress studio in
Hmm.
Pasadena, the Armory Center for the Arts. And
I know it. Yeah.
I, you do.
Yeah.
And Bonnie Thompson Norman was my teacher. And I just loved that craft. I loved being able to get my hands on the big, 1-ton machines, mixing inks with the spatula, feeding the paper. And that led to me getting my own printing presses. I found them in Chicago. I had them trucked over I had a Chandler and Price, which was a pre-1900s machine printing press. And then I also got a Vandercook press, which is a long sort of flatbed press that can handle larger like posters and things. So I put those in my garage. This is before Soolip. This is probably 1990.
I was just going to ask you, because letter pressing became sort of this art again, right? And we had small businesses in the early 2000s that started to kind of play with it, maybe even maybe 2000. I'm just trying to think of the ages of my kids and like when I was starting to do that, like 2003, 5, 8, in that window. Right. You were way ahead of that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I started letterpressing probably in 1990. Yeah, 1990. And I got my printing presses. I had them in my garage. I'm that typical story. Woman starts in the garage and makes it happen. And that's really what happened. I put them in my garage. I was still working for Perry Ellis. And I just loved making cards. And and then in 1994, I became pregnant with my oldest daughter, Simone, my one and only daughter, Simone. Yeah. And it was 1994. And Grant, my husband at the time, knew that I wanted to open a paper store. And he said, Wanda, we should open the paper store now, because if we wait till after Simone is born, you'll never sit down and open it. So we did. He was, he had great time in his hands because he was getting out of being an actor and going in. He wanted to get into writing. So he said, okay, I'll make the fixtures. And he did. In fact, today they still exist.
Oh, they do?
All those wood fixtures, if you could see them.
Oh, wow.
Those were built.
So everything that's containing the cards.
Well, the cards, I'm going to look. The flat files.
Oh, yes. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. Those were all hand done by him and a friend. And all the card racks.
Wow.
And then even these stationery bins. They were all custom done specifically for things that I wanted to sell, basically. And so he said, okay, I'll do the fixtures. You continue working, because we needed to, run our household, right? And and I was a VP of a fashion company, and we made it happen. We opened in 1995, June of 1995, and we had Simone July of 1995.
Oh my gosh!
And I, at the time then, I was tapped to launch the women's division of Joe Boxer. I don't know if you remember Joe Boxer.
I know. I remember Joe Boxer very well. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So they had wild success in menswear, and Ernesto Aguirre, who is a dear friend of mine, became the president of Joe Boxer, and he brought me over. He said, Wanda, would you launch the women's line? I said, great. And so I did that.
Wait, I'm sorry. You launched Soolip in June. You had a baby Simone. In July, and then you said yes to a new job, a high-level new job?
Yes.
Who was running the store?
Well, Grant was there.
Okay, so he was literally, he was manning the store, if you will. Store. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
my gosh.
And I was at my house because the printing presses were there, so I could oversee the printing. I could continue feeding Simone, and I could, the fashion industry was easy for me, and I loved it. And I just made it work. And Netta, I probably didn't sleep very much that year.
I'm sure you didn't. Isn't that crazy?
It's crazy. But after a year, I was done with Joe Boxer, and we were able to sustain ourselves on Soolip. And it's been like that for 30 years.
And that was the initial Melrose store that I know?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So let's fast forward to there was a period where you were opening lots of stores.
Yeah. Yeah.
within Los Angeles. I mean, that's
Yeah.
interesting. And then you had, I think, in Gumps, didn't you have a
Yeah.
store within
Yeah.
Gumps, which for
Yeah.
those listening is a very fancy, it was started in San Francisco, right? And there's a
Sorry. Yeah.
Beverly Hills
Yeah. I think
location too.
there was. Yeah. I mean, they are
Okay.
no longer
Yeah.
existing, but
Yeah.
they were the creme de la creme of things for the home, and
Yeah.
very old world,
Very
and
chic.
very, yeah, very chic. So, yeah, I mean, after we opened Soolip and Press on Melrose in 1995, every year for the next 6 years, we opened up a new space. And so the next year we opened an art gallery called Gallery Soolip, which I'm actually starting to direct again.
Okay.
And then the next year we opened Soolip Bungalow, which was one of my favorites because it was things for the home. I mean, Grant and I would travel to Paris, to London, to find the greatest papers, right? And but in while we were doing that, we always found, oh my gosh, there's this great lamp or something, or
Sure.
these great candlesticks, and we thought, oh yeah, that's a desk accessory. It goes into a paper store. Eventually, it was like, okay, come on, you just need to open another store. So we opened Soolip Bungalow, which was things for the home, and it was lovely, body and bath. And then the next year, we opened another paper store down the street across from Earth Cafe called Soolip Marie Papier, which was all paper again, but a different aesthetic. There was a paper line out of Paris called Marie Papier. Those of you that are paper files maybe remember that, but she had a great aesthetic, Marie. And so that whole store was filled with her product.
Wow.
And then a year later, we opened Soolip Tot. TOT. It was basically children's clothing, like really cool children's clothing. Because by then we had Dag. Dag is, well, he was born in 1998. And so, just my focus is on the kids.
Sure.
And anyways, that was the trajectory.
And the audience that was following you, my suspicion is, and I was living in New York at the time, so I missed some of this, but yeah, I had left Los Angeles for a bit and then came back. But really, it was people following your taste. Soolip had become synonymous with not just paper, but a level of luxury. And so my suspicion is that's what made each of those individual stores successful, is people were like, what else is Wanda doing? What else is she touching? What else does she kind of have her head and hands around? And you're right, as you're traveling to these great destinations in search of paper, why wouldn't you also bring back unique objects to share with this Los Angeles audience? So you've got now 5 different stores. Did we just count?
No. Well, then, yes.
Okay.
And then I started, and then we were steep in the wedding business because that really was a huge part of Soolip Papery and Press is wedding imitations. So I started a Soolip wedding.
Yeah. Yes. And I remember.
And I ran that for 13 years. And it was a great event. And it kind of had a life of its own. And we probably were the first people to do a curated boutique wedding event. At the time, it was 1999. And there were other wedding events going on, but they were in, the convention center, or they were in the ballroom of, a chain hotel. And I remember doing one of those chain hotel wedding fairs. And I thought, no, this isn't my customer. There's got to be something else. So just like you, Netta, and Liberty Road, I said, okay, no, I'm going to just start one because it's there. I know the customer is there, a sophisticated customer that wants something unique. So I started a Soolip wedding at the store on Melrose. And we wrapped it around the back parking lot, and we had 100 people sit down lunch, and it was sold out. And then the next year, we actually sold it out twice we had a breakfast, and then we had a lunch one, and we had Richard Tyler as our fashion designer. And then it just kind of blew up. I mean, the next year, Shutters at the Beach said, we'd love to have your event. Would you consider holding it at our space? I said, great. And so every year I would move it to another location because it also kept it fresh. And we had, at the height of it, it was probably the biggest event was probably in 2005 maybe, and we had 60 vendors. So we had everyone from, Sephora, Range Rover, even Harry Winston participated. I mean, we had really the creme de la creme. Bloomingdale's, Williams Sonoma. We had 60 vendors, and we had 800 people that came to the event. And the people that came to the event were friends and family of course, the brides, their friends and family, and then people in the wedding and event industry. So, it became an event that, oh gosh, this is where the new people are at. Sure. We need to see what's going on. So industry definitely came for sure. And then I expanded it to San Francisco because it was my vision that, okay, well, if I'm selling this event just in Los Angeles and I have national people like Monique Lier and Carolina Herrera and Bloomingdale's, why don't I sell it? Why don't I just take it to 6 different major cities? And so I started it. I moved it, I did 2 events in San Francisco, and then then it became really hard because I was a single mom by then. My partner and father to my kids passed away young, and it just was. And then 2008 was a really tough time financially for the world, or at least America. And it really hit us hard. And Grant passed away in 2007. And by then I had 3 young kids, and it was like, okay, I have to I got to hone in and take care of what's most important to me, which are my kids.
Yeah. And I love in that story that it's a story we can all relate to. What is it to come into things, to have things for a season, to let go of things, to prioritize our life? And as a result of those priorities, we're carving out a different life for ourselves, and we're letting go of things. Was that hard? Was it hard to let go of some of those Soolip things that were babies in their own ways?
Yes and no, Netta. The core of Soolip still kept going. Mm-hmm. The paper. It was almost necessary. It was like the universe was saying, Wanda, you gotta trim the tree. Wanda, you gotta trim the tree. And I'm a great optimist, and that's also a fault of mine. I remember
I hear you, sister.
I mean, when 2008 hit, and we had lost one of our biggest accounts, which was a significant part of our business. And not that we didn't lose them so much, it's just that no one was spending like they were.
Yeah.
And so it was a car company. And I mean, at that time, we had 25 full-time people at Soolip. I mean, we had a whole printing press and a whole studio in North Hollywood. And then we had those 5 stores, and I just opened Gumps. I mean, It was just way too much. And so one by one, really out of necessity, because the money wasn't there, and being the optimist, I kept all of our people going. Okay, everyone, Team Soolip, we're going to keep going. We're going to keep going. And I just spent through any savings that I had. I mean, it just was down to, okay, universe, I'm on my knees.
Yeah.
Now I was on my knees. Yeah, I was on my knees.
Did that give you an opportunity to really reflect on kind of what were the most important things? We talked about prioritizing your family. And so that, you had these 3 young kids. But in terms of the business, did it actually, and maybe it's in retrospect that you could see that, really
Yeah.
call you to this place of what is essential in order for
Yeah.
you to do your craft, create this business, keep it going financially,
Yeah.
sustainable for your family. Do you look back and say, oh my goodness, not thank goodness for what happened to Grant, or thank goodness for the economy, or you being left to raise 3 kids alone, but thank goodness that something stopped the chaos in some ways?
Yeah, I think that it was, well, first of all, I'm a big believer in energy and the universe's energy and what the universe is trying to tell you.
Yeah.
And I really, that's probably the time when I really embraced yoga, because it was like, okay, I just have to like, there's something. I just have to come into myself. I just have to like come to my center. Wanda, what is really, really, really the most important? And if you take care of what is the most important, then everything kind of falls into place, right? It's like, I look at the world now, and so many people are looking out at others and complaining here, complaining there, criticizing here, criticizing there. And it's actually really tiring. It's hard to see. And it's not constructive. It's not constructive at all. What's constructive is if we all, and that's what I did when I was on my knees, if we all just come to our center, get to what is important to us, take care of our own side of the street. That's the best thing we could do. Everything else will fall into place.
Amen. I mean, I have more questions, so I can't end the podcast, but man, that would have been a good mic drop moment. Let's just leave it there, ladies.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Preach, Wanda. No, seriously. You and I have had conversations, and so I know this about you. I know that there's so much more to you than what we physically see when we walk into a Soolip store. There's so much more to you than the beautiful curated papers and the level of taste and sophistication that you bring. And that's what I was talking about at the front of the podcast. There is a real groundedness to who you are, and how you do things, and how you call other people around you to do things, whether it's, I know some of the people that work for you. I've seen you, when you were leading the workshop. I actually didn't get to see you because I was running around, getting stuff done, but I saw a video, and I could see you in the video, calling everybody in that space to themselves, and reminding people to remember who they are. And then from that place to be able to, the workshop you did, they were writing their personal manifesto.
Mantras. Yeah.
Mantras. And it was so moving. I later heard that people were crying and people were so moved, and that's so much a part of who you are. Is that, do you think, a result of your yoga practice, your meditation practice, your kind of calling yourself to this center on a regular basis?
It is. I think it's just my whole life. I grew up in Oregon, and I was surrounded by nature. And I still, even though I've lived in California more than I've lived in Oregon, I still hold it very fondly that I'm an Oregonian. I was wearing Birkenstocks way back when it was, now it's fashionable. But I mean, I had my first Birkenstocks when I was probably 14, and I had them probably for a good 10 years because I would resole them. And, but my yoga practice, yes, is really important to me. It's, I think that my lifestyle paralleled the yogic philosophy but I didn't really know it until I started really studying it. And when I started studying it, and when in 2015, when I did a teacher training for my 200 hour, I thought, oh, there's a container right here that I never knew. I just always knew that my God is in here. Like my center, my sense of direction is here. And so, but anyways, yes. And then once I started studying yoga and really diving deep, it became very clear that yes, there is this container, and the most beautiful part about yoga is the philosophical underpinnings, and they are near and dear to my heart. And I could, we could have a whole session on the yamas and niyamas, which I would love to have. It's like the precepts of life. It's like right action, and those are things that I teach in my game, the board game, the Yoga Land game, which I came out with 5 years ago. And I'm really excited to be working on a new version of it, which is a little bit more graspable. And because it's really geared towards kids ages 6 through 12. I'm passionate about what the yoga philosophy curates and cultivates in human beings, and I think that we could use so much more of that. Knowing what nonviolence is, non-coveting, energy management, speaking truth, non-stealing. All these principles are being taught in this Yoga Land 2 game, which is coming out next spring, and I'm just so excited.
It's so cool do you mind me saying your age? Okay.
No.
At the front, I need to tell, I need to tell everybody at the front of this podcast, I don't even think I asked how old you were. We just were talking about getting on the podcast. Wanda used a calculator, ladies, to remind herself how old she was. If that's not age does not matter and it's just a number, I don't know what is. Like you nailed it in that moment. So at 62, this idea of reimagining what you can do. I'm not going to use the word reinventing because I believe we bring all those things with us. I don't think there's a stop, erase, start all over. I think we're bringing all of that from Perry Ellis and Stephen Sprouse and Joe Boxer and all the iterations of Soolip until now. You get to create a board game and then you get to iterate on that board game 5 years later. And here it is again. What are the things that you believe if a friend asked you, like, I don't know, Wanda, how to keep iterating in my own life. I don't know how to keep reimagining what can be. What is your sort of 2 cents on that?
I think that it's really important to live life with an open heart. And if there are things that are experiences, emotions, relationships that are clogging the heart, you got to take care of that. You got to take care of it. I don't care how you do it, whether it's through therapy or whether it's through transformational workshops, whether it's through a yoga practice, whether it's through journaling. And it's in yoga, it's called self-study. It's called svadhyaya. And it's self-study, studying yourself. Right? Because we always can be learning. We always can be evolving, right? The older I get, the more I want to know and the more I realize that I need to know. So leading life with an open heart, not holding anger, not holding resentment, because if you hold anger against someone, or if you have resentment over something or someone, all it does is hurt you.
Yeah.
So, and the other key is to stay curious. You got it. It's very much having an open heart, but the staying curious has also to do with the mind. and not being so bullheaded that you know everything, because you don't.
Yeah.
Actually.
Yeah.
The people that feel or pretend or speak or walk around this planet like they know everything, they actually know less.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah.
And
So,
it seems so rooted in fear too. Like I have to know everything. Otherwise I don't know anything, and life feels out of control. And there is this sort of sense of we know less, and we become aware of how little that is, which is actually an opportunity. It's an opportunity to learn.
For sure.
Bring us back, because I want the audience to kind of know what the origin story has led to. So Soolip today is fill in the blank.
Soolip today is a lifestyle brand that is rooted in paper, nature, seeing the beauty and simplicity, and embracing product and crafts. And the crux of Soolip right now is still paper, as it always has been. We're still doing stationery. We have long time clients for 30 years. We still do gift wrapping. We do a lot of corporate packaging now, where there's companies or organizations that want elevation. And so they'll come to us for the eye. We also, so when I started Soolip, my business plan, what's the word, the goal, what the business summary, or there's a certain word in
elevator pitch.
No. Like what's the anyways, the goal, the mantra of Soolip was that I wanted to create a space.
Oh, the mission statement.
Thank you so much. The mission statement.
It's like, we're going to get this. We're going to get this.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. The mission statement. So the mission statement was, and I can't say it verbatim because I don't remember, but basically it was, I wanted to create an environment where people were inspired. They could come in, they were inspired, and they were inspired to come to themselves. And that was in 1994. I've always had that. Like, it just, and I sometimes will look at like my old writing on a yellow pad, maybe because I've kept it, and it's from 1993, 1994, and it's still the same thing.
Isn't that funny?
It's still the same thing.
Yeah.
It is funny.
So our listeners are everywhere, right? Everywhere, actually all over the world. Good. Isn't that amazing?
Amazing.
So what we need to do, you don't do anything virtually, right? None of your workshops.
Well, I do. Well, so I have a YouTube called A Soolip Fix.
Oh, yeah, great.
It's called A Soolip Fix. There are 50 videos on there, and they're free. They're 100% free. You could go and learn many of these things that I'm saying. And if you could subscribe, that would be even better.
Okay. We'll make sure to link to that in the show notes so that people can check that out. That's awesome.
Yeah. And I also teach yoga online. That's where I mainly teach. So if anyone's interested, I conduct that personally, because it's not that I announce it to the world. I'm not, because I keep it pretty intimate. But if anyone is ever interested in practicing with me, I teach on Sunday mornings. I teach on Monday mornings and Wednesday mornings, and it's Hatha yoga, and it's lovely.
How do they get a hold of you, Wanda?
They could email me. They can email me on wanda@soolip.com.
Okay, we'll make sure to include the email in there as well. Oh my goodness. Don't complain to me if you get a rush of people coming to you. That you said that.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing so much of your work story, your life story. Thank you for showing us what it looks like to have a mission and allow it to iterate, hold it loosely. I find the most interesting thing, and I've learned this as an entrepreneur more than anything, is just not holding things with such a tight grip. Just let it come and go.
Totally.
Let it come and go.
Yeah, stay flexible.
Yeah.
That is the mantra. Stay flexible. The other mantra that I'd love to add is see the light in everyone you walk by.
Yeah.
See the light, see their light. And we could use that now more than ever.
Yeah.
And we can use that when we talk to people that maybe have different political views. It's okay. They are human beings, right? We all are human beings. So if I could just leave this conversation with see the light in everyone, I mean, that's that. I love that.
Thank you. Thank you, Wanda. I want you to leave with that, but I have one more question.
Okay.
What is all of this work through Soolip? And again, its various iterations and impacting people with physical paper, impacting them with who you are as a leader, as an entrepreneur, as an employer. What has all of this done to liberate you?
Well, what is important to me, as I said, is to inspire people. And I inspire people with beauty, whether it's the deckled edge of a handmade paper or the stroke of a black ink calligraphed, letter. And yes, people see that. I mean, people regard Soolip as a luxury brand, and I'm proud of that, yes. But what I'm most proud, and I also say this in my book, The Art of Gift Wrapping, is that there is beauty everywhere. There is beauty in a river stone that is just sitting on the sidewalk. There is beauty in the little green leaf that's being grown out of a crack of cement in downtown LA. And if we could see that beauty, it doesn't cost any money. There's no money involved. It's just, if we could see that beauty, we can then realize the magic that is life. Yeah. I don't know if I answered that question. I think I went off a tangent. Did I?
Well, a little bit, but I'm going to forgive you. What I heard you say, though, because it was a response to that, is that is how you yourself have been liberated through finding beauty, through sharing beauty, through teaching beauty, through teaching us to see beauty, that has been your own liberation. And that's how you in turn liberate others. So you did answer the question.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Wanda. Thanks for making time to hang out with me and our Liberty listeners. I so appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Netta.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And Liberty listeners, thank you guys. Thanks for hanging out with Wanda and me. I will share everything that she invited you into in the show notes. And if she complains for 1 minute that she's got too many yoga people joining her, you can tell her it's her own fault. Bye for now.